Good Thursday evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell here in our WHAS 11 News streaming studio powered by Humana. We have a lot to talk about as we round out the work week and head into the weekend. Of course, it's been an unseasonably warm first full week of January. We've been tracking highs in the 50s and 60s, and we've been kind of mentioning it all week. We'll also take a deeper dive and talking about it on Whether or Not tonight at 8 p.m. on the WHAS 11 Plus app. But this time last year, we were dealing with snow and ice. This year, we're dealing with temperatures in the 50s and 60s, but we are tracking some rain chances and yes, some cooler temperatures on the way. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. Here's a check of our 3-day forecast for the Kentuckiana viewing area, including Louisville. As you can tell, there are some changes certainly on the way. Friday, temperatures still look to top out in the 60s. In fact, we're really not going to be cooling off all too much tonight into Friday. We could see some cooler temperatures. I say cooler, still 50s, it looks like by Friday afternoon, eventually into the 40s Friday night. Saturday, we'll try to warm back into the lower 50s before that coolest air of these systems that we're tracking really rolls in here for our day on Sunday. And that's really when that taste of winter returns to the region. Highs in the 30s, some flurries possible. I will say the model data today, not as excited about maybe a spotty snow shower or flurries, but I do think anytime you have colder air rushing in, if you have some pockets of cloud cover, low clouds, it can certainly squeeze out some flurries. So that's why we have that in the forecast here. And you'll notice the 3-day forecast, we have a half red, half blue day on Friday. That's because we have a weather impact alert for Friday morning. At this time, it looks like some gusty downpours are possible just in time for that Friday morning commute. So I'd rather alert you to that possibility, a slight chance for severe weather as well, rather than not alert you and have something occur that really kind of slows you down or impacts your day. Saturday looking a lot less impactful than it did even 24 to 48 hours ago, and we'll talk about that. And then Sunday, it's just going to be cold. Back to our reality. So in terms of our weather impact alert for our Friday morning, looking like it could be a messy Friday morning commute. Of course, this is all about timing, and I'll show the hour-by-hour futurecast, but it does look like the best chance for showers, maybe some embedded thunderstorms, will be rolling through our region anywhere between 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're expecting gusty winds, I think even outside of any kind of storm gusts. We could see wind gusts 35 to 40 miles per hour, so kind of blowing things around. If Friday's your trash day, keep that in mind. And of course, we have coverage on WHAS 11 every morning starting at 5 a.m., so just tune in to Good Morning Kentuckiana with meteorologist Matt Breland tomorrow. Get the latest look at the radar and whether or not that line has already passed you or has yet to come. You can also download the WHAS 11 Plus app. So here is our severe weather outlook for Friday. Obviously, the greatest ingredients down to our south, where you're seeing that yellow circled area there between Louisiana, Mississippi, up to Alabama. Here at home, we are right on that northern edge of the marginal risk. That basically rides along the I-64 corridor and then areas down to the south. It's a marginal risk. It's pretty low end, but as we saw in December, these kind of setups where we have a lot of what's called a wind shear, but not a lot of cape or energy or storm fuel, can still pack a punch with some stronger storms. So that's why we just take these seriously. We keep an eye on it. We throw an alert on it just in case we do get a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings along it. But gusty winds really our primary threat there. Max HD radar, we've had a warm front that's been lifting, and with that, the radar picking up on a little bit of that noise there, some light rain. Certainly possible this evening, but many of us just dealing with mostly cloudy skies and those very mild temperatures. Big picture view, though, take a look at this storm system that's off to our west and northwest, bringing some heavy rainfall at times. You're seeing a couple of lightning strikes as it lifts closer to Chicago. And then that wraparound side, my friends back in Omaha, I lived in Omaha for 3.5 years, they're seeing some rain that's going to transition over to kind of some wet, heavy snow there on the backside of that system as we carry on into tonight. But we're waiting for, you see that skinny line around St. Louis to nudge our direction. It's going to take some time, though, really throughout this evening and tonight. In terms of storm reports, this Storm did pack a punch down in Oklahoma this morning, but since then hasn't been too impactful. We're seeing some storm reports, it looks like, around Kansas City from earlier today, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. Once again, we're talking marginal risk or level 1 out of 5. We certainly are getting some of that fuel right now with these temperatures well into the 60s. Bowling Green made it up into the lower 70s today. It is January. Our average high is 43 degrees in Louisville for this time of year. And obviously we were well above that. In addition to the warmth, we've also had a lot more humidity as well. So our dew points have increased throughout the course of the day. We started off the day with temperatures in the 30s, dew points in the 30s, and now we have temperatures in the 60s and dew points in the 50s. So getting a little bit more of that warmth and humidity out ahead of that rain chance. Here's your hour-by-hour futurecast through this evening. Temperatures looking to stay quite mild, partly to mostly cloudy skies, getting a little bit breezier as well. You'll notice maybe some pockets of light showers out ahead of the main line, which at 2 a.m. is still off to our west and northwest. And similar to anytime we see lines of storms around here, it'll move into our western and northwestern counties first. Areas like Jasper, Bedford, Paoli. Obviously, always take the timing with a grain of salt, plus or minus an hour or so. It is just model data. But that looks to swing through anytime between, I would say, 3 and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So for Louisville, the sweet spot is kind of around 6 a.m. Obviously, that could change depending on the speed of the line. But if you have an earlier commute, this could impact you more so than if you have a later commute in Louisville, say 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, depending on when you take the kids to school and things like that. So just be prepared for some periodic downpour, some gusty winds. It is a pretty thin line of showers and embedded thunderstorms, so it's going to roll through here fairly quickly. And really, flooding is not a concern with this tomorrow. It's just going to be moving so quickly. Could dump some, quarter of an inch, maybe half of an inch of rainfall in our southernmost counties, and then it's out of here. And much of the rest of our Friday is looking pretty quiet. Wind speeds actually decrease a bit. We're going to be on the north side, it looks like, of this boundary, or you could say north and west side. So I do think we'll actually cool off a little bit, and the high resolution model is showing that. So we'll likely have our high temperature earlier in the morning, and then temperatures cool off slightly for the afternoon. Still likely 50s, as you're seeing here on the Futurecast. Lows now look to drop down to the 40s for Friday night into Saturday morning. And we've had some changes, even just over the last 24 hours, with this secondary surge of moisture on Saturday. So earlier in the week, it really looked like this secondary surge of moisture Friday night into Saturday morning was going to be the bulk of our rainfall from these two systems. Not so much today. It's really shifting off to the east. And as that low shifts off to the east, it takes that moisture to the east along with it. And we get in what's called a dry slot. So you may notice there's some green on your map to the east and southeast, and then some green on the map off to the northwest, and we're kind of in that drier corridor there. So this is Saturday morning. It just doesn't look as messy as previously thought. There's that reinforcing front swinging through Saturday afternoon. Something that could be interesting if any cold air catches up aloft. Higher in the atmosphere, we could have maybe some grapple or sleet. We've had that before. When colder air catches up, it's raining outside, and you're like, I think there might be some wintry mix in here. We'll watch that, but temperatures at the surface obviously well above freezing Saturday afternoon. Breezy on the backside of that boundary, and then those temperatures drop as we carry on into Sunday. Now, this is potential rainfall output. The green is less than half an inch. The blue is between a half of an inch and an inch. You'll notice as time ticks along, Saturday was originally going to add another half of an inch, maybe up to an inch of rainfall potential when we were looking at model data earlier in the week. And now take a look at where this banding is setting up. Really, that threat for heavy rainfall is more so East Tennessee, far northern Georgia, northern Alabama, maybe up into the mountains there, off to the northeast. So here at home, quarter of an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch of rainfall if we're lucky out of this system. Just not packing as much of a punch as previously thought. So that's good news, I'd say. 7-day forecast here. Once again, we have that half red, half blue for tomorrow because we are expecting some gusty showers, maybe some embedded thunderstorms for that Friday morning. We'll be watching for any kind of sneaky severe weather threat. Cold weather, cold season severe weather, it's just tricky because you don't need as much of the ingredients. So we'll just be watching that for an isolated warning or two. Of course, meteorologist Matt Breland will be in the morning and keeping a close eye on that radar for you. Really, the second half of your Friday is quiet. Quiet, drier. That rain tries to surge northward Saturday morning, but it'll be light and spotty. That front brings it into that Saturday afternoon. And then even our Sunday flurries aren't looking as exciting. So some models had a decent little lobe of energy that kind of wrapped around and dropped some nice light snow showers Sunday morning. Now it's looking spottier, maybe some flurries here or there. Definitely colder temperatures. That's still going to swing on through with highs on Sunday in the 30s and colder wind chills. So that's kind of back to your winter reality, a reminder that we are indeed in January. Next week, we still have some of these subtle ups and downs. We'll try to hit 50 degrees on Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday look great. Wednesday, I do think we could see a rain-snow mix. Not looking at accumulations there because, once again, temperatures are in the 40s, but maybe a potential for a rain-snow mix. And I will say, it does look like we're going to be cooling things off for the second half of January. That's really what the models are showing. Starting to be picked up in our long-range temperature outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center. This is our 8 to 14-day temperature outlook. You can tell there's more blues on the maps here. So likely below normal highs. Once again, average highs in the lower 40s. High temperatures so far this week have been in the 50s and 60s, so more spring-like than winter-like around here, even though we did start off cool the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of the month, and then we really brought the warmth beginning this past Monday. Your temperature trends, if you want to take a look at just slightly above us in the atmosphere, this is also a good visual. So we still have that warmth coming in, once again, from the south and southwest. And then we have these two hits of kind of fronts moving through here. It's not as dramatic of a cool down also as previously thought, because if you're going to jog that area of low pressure to the east, we're not going to be as warm Saturday as we could have been because we're on the backside. We're on the colder side of that system already. So that's also why we went ahead and canceled the weather impact for Saturday. Not as drastic of a temperature drop and not as great of a chance for some decent rainfall. But it will be a gradual cooling between really Friday night through Saturday into Sunday as that cold air swings through here. Sunday will be our coldest day. And then we rebound pretty quickly. Early next week, temperatures moderate, but take a look at that long range. We become blue, and then we continue to have additional hits of colder air kind of swinging through here. So that's something that we will be watching. But our high temperatures just for the next 5 days, 67 on Friday. It does look like that may be occurring a little bit earlier in the day now, so temperatures may drop more so low 60s, upper 50s for the afternoon and evening, kind of behind that morning rain. Saturday, 53, I also still think that'll be maybe mid to late morning, and then temperatures drop with that reinforcing front early afternoon. 35 on Sunday, and then back into the 40s to maybe some lower 50s by early next week. Once again, our average high for this time of year is 43 degrees in Louisville. All right, I'm going to see if there are any questions on Facebook. While I'm doing that, I'm just going to pop up the radar here. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. Hi, Patty. Hi, Lynn. All right. Doesn't look like any questions. So we'll kind of recap what I talked about. Let's see if there's anything new from the National Weather Service. Doesn't look like it. We could break a daily record high on Friday and potentially a daily record warm low, if that makes sense. Like, temperatures just aren't really going to drop tonight. So tomorrow morning is going to be in the 60s. It's really dependent on how cool we get tomorrow evening. But our record high for Friday is 67. Here, I can pop myself up here. The record high For Friday is 67 degrees. That's set back in 1949. So if we make it to 68 at any point throughout the day tomorrow, that would be a new daily record high for January 9th for Louisville. And then the record warm low, that makes sense. You know, your overnight low temperatures, the coolest temperature of the day is 53 degrees. So we're definitely not going to dip below that tonight. The question is, how cool do we get before midnight tomorrow night? So this is obviously unseasonably warm for this time of year. And I believe Bowling Green set a record today with a high of 71, which is just wild. 72 down in Bowling Green today. So, all right, once again, Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell here with WHAS 11 in Louisville, Kentucky. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to recap just a few things on the radar, the hour-by-hour forecast, what we're paying attention to for Friday morning. We'll take one last look at the 7-day forecast and then kind of tie everything in a bow here to let you go for the rest of the evening. Of course, after this, if you are watching from the WHAS 11 Plus app, we have a new episode of Whether or Not tonight. It's our first one of 2026. We talk all about the unseasonably warm weather that we're dealing with this week. We compare it to this week last year when we had 10.5 inches of snowfall on the ground in Louisville. And we take a look at some viral weather videos, weather trivia. It's a good time. So make sure you do tune in and watch that. But let's kind of circle back here. So next 3 days, just expect some changes. Gusty showers tomorrow morning for that morning commute. Much of your Friday, though, once that clears by like 9 a.m., it's going to be a pretty quiet day. Temperatures still staying quite mild. Saturday, I'm calling the transition day because it's in between that warmest air and the coolest air. So it gets to be a little bit more of a gradual drop rather than that 54-degree drop that we had at the end of December. It was on the 28th to the 29th. We dropped 54 degrees, I believe, in less than 24 hours. That was wild. We're not going to see that as quickly. It's not as strong of a front. This time around, we actually have a couple of fronts that are moving through here that are breaking it apart a bit more. And then, once again, some flurries are possible on Sunday. Messy morning commute for your Friday morning. We do have a level 1 out of 5 on the severe weather outlook. That's primarily along and south of Louisville, along and south of I-64. Gusty winds, the greatest threat there. So that's why we're paying attention to it. Max HD radar just picking up on some of that noise higher up in the atmosphere. Maybe some light drizzle possible out there, but really it's been a quiet day. We're watching that line of showers and storms that's becoming a bit more linear and trying to grow a little bit more around St. Louis. All that's being pulled northward though, so that's why it's going to take a while to get here because it's being pulled north while it'll eventually be swinging off to the east. And I don't need to go through storm reports again. Let's just jog forward to the hour-by-hour forecast. Pull that up. I'll pull it up full screen for us here. And hour-by-hour futurecast through the rest of the evening. It's breezy. It's mild. Temperatures are in the 60s. And then as we carry on into later tonight, we could see spotty shower here or there. Better chance for that line of gusty showers will be after 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And we are expecting some gusty winds with this. We could have wind gust, I'd say 35, maybe up to 40 miles per hour. And then some higher gusts if we do get any kind of isolated strong storm embedded in there. So 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. This continues to track off to the east. And then once that's through the area, it doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of moisture on the backside. We really dry out after that point. Temperatures cool off, maybe a few degrees for the afternoon, but a quieter second half of the day. And then as I mentioned, that second wave, so we've been tracking 2 rounds of potential rainfall this week. The first round was Thursday night into Friday, and the second round Friday night into Saturday. The second round is just not looking as impressive for us. Much heavier rainfall down to our south and southeast, but for us, light rainfall. That reinforcing front swings through Saturday afternoon, and then temperatures still look to drop. But as I mentioned, heaviest rain really will be setting up for anybody heading to Atlanta for the Peach Bowl. If you are driving Friday, you'll likely run into rain, and then if you're trying to leave Saturday, you'll likely run into rain coming back up. So keep that in mind. If you are driving, allow yourself some extra time. Keep an eye on the radar. There's so many apps out there these days, so just keep an eye on the radar for your drive down. But for us, much lighter on this particular map. Green is less than 1/2 of an inch. Blue is 1/2 of an inch to an inch. So Nothing that we cannot handle. 7-day forecast, half red, half blue day tomorrow. That is a partial weather impact alert or a weather impact alert for the Friday morning commute. Best time frame really looking to be between 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then some spotty showers are possible Saturday, but as I mentioned, just not nearly as impressive. Cool down really is here on Sunday with winter making a comeback. Highs in the 30s with some flurries possible. And then next week, you're seeing more of those subtle ups and downs. Low 40s Monday, 50 Tuesday, maybe a rain-snow mix on Wednesday, and then back into the 30s on Thursday. And I will say we are getting more hints of winter returning and then sticking around. Your 8 to 14-day temperature outlook here, still trending cooler than average. So that could mean more highs in the 30s. And I showed all this earlier, but for anybody who hopped on a little late, this is a good visual too of our temperature trends. So you can see still some of those oranges and reds here for the next day or so, even though we're kind of fighting that cooler and warmer air, more so on Saturday. That's our transition day. Coldest air on Sunday. We try to moderate temperatures, but a lot more blue. And then even next Sunday, I mean, if you take a look at where the banner is, the purples in Minneapolis, that could be some colder air that's really could dislodge itself and move down to the south and really cool things off for us. So that's going to be something that we watch next week. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap things up here. Thanks for tuning in to this live stream. We are in the WHAS 11 News streaming studio powered by Humana. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell. We're watching those gusty showers for our Friday morning commute. Some spotty activity maybe on Saturday, and then that bigger cool down will be felt by Sunday. So different weather for the next 3 days. Be prepared for that. Find your warmer winter coat. I know it's been one of those things where I've needed a rain jacket one day, a winter coat the next day with the gloves and the scarf and the hat. And that's what it looks like for this weekend as well. So thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to watch Whether or Not coming up on the WHAS 11 Plus app starting at 8 o'clock. It's a new episode this week. We have a new episode most Thursdays at 8 p.m. And I'll be back on the news side of things tonight at 11 p.m. on WHAS 11. We'll take the latest look at the radar and, of course, that hour-by-hour forecast. But thanks for tuning in and have a great night.